guess one of my biggest questions for you, now you've worked in MUFON for such a long time. You've been actually on the front lines, interviewing people, listening to their stories. Now, assuming that there are some people out there who are absolute full of crock and just, making up stories. We put those people aside for a second. I'm sure in everything that you've been through, sifting through all of that material, you have found some very authentic material and evidence. I'd love for you to share some of that with us so that we can get an idea of some of the things that you've seen that lend evidence to the existence of these beings.
Okay, number one, I personally have investigated over 2,000 cases over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them were with MUFON. A lot of them were on the side. I can tell you that the numbers that I came up with are roughly the same that the Air Force actually came up with, and a number of other sources. It always seems to sort out this way. And I'll just give it to you very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If you hold up your 10 fingers and say those are 10 UFO cases, okay, out of that, there are going to be 3 or 4 that are man-made or natural phenomena, and the person thought it was a UFO, as in an alien craft, but it's actually a planet, a satellite. You'd be surprised how many people do not bother to learn anything about the regular night sky, and immediately they make a pronouncement. Okay, so you eliminate those. There are going to be 3 or 4 of them that you're never going to solve because they just don't have sufficient evidence. And that happens in any investigative organization. It happens in the criminal world, the civil world, the UFO world. Sometimes you just don't have enough information that you can really safely say, okay, my investigation's finished, and this is what I think it was. I think that, you just have to take that information and set it aside and hope that later on you will learn something that will help. Okay. There will be 2 cases out of every 10, 20% are UFO gold. Those are also known as trufos, true UFOs. High credibility witness combined with a high strangeness event. That's what we're all looking for. That's, I liken being a UFO investigator or a MUFON state director or whatever. It's getting very dark in here. I just need one moment. I can make it a little lighter. There we go. That should help. It's like being a gold miner, an old prospector. You're out there, with the mud and the gravel trying to look for those nuggets of gold. That's what we're all searching for when we're investigating UFOs. What have I concluded from all of the cases that were high strangeness? There obviously is some kind of an intelligent force operating on the earth that is not under anybody's control that's human. It can come and go when it wants. It does, but it doesn't appear after all this time that they are directly interfering with us, except in a few select circumstances, such as shutting down some of our ICBM missiles, as actually happened. I've actually talked to the officers that were on duty. There's a book called UFOs and Nukes. That's the other thing that's very interesting about the UFO phenomena. UFOs and all things nuclear go together like coffee and cream or bread and butter. Wherever you have one, you have the other. And, he spent years interviewing people who had worked on basically high security nuclear sites or missile silos or nuclear weapons depots. And all of these people had stories to relate that will make your hair stand on end because they are so strange. Something is coming in and scanning our nuclear facilities.
Could you give me just one example of one of these stories that you've heard from someone?
Well, I didn't hear it directly, but you can take the ones over in Eastern. Oh, I did have one that I did take directly.
Yeah.
Up here outside of Seattle, in fact, it's not terribly far from where I live, is a place called Bangor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a place where the nuclear submarines go to get their armaments refitted. And they don't like to talk about this to the public very often, but it actually is a rather large collection of nuclear warheads.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to a guard who worked there after he got out, and he reported that one night when he was on duty, he saw basically a ball of energy
Mm-hmm.
that slowly moved over this restricted area. And he heard the other posts talking about it. So everybody was seeing it. And it never was clear why it was there, but it got very close to all of these bunkers that contain nuclear weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it moved away. And they were actually debating whether they were going to fire on this thing because it was in a highly restricted area.
Mm-hmm.
That same night, Peter Davenport took 3 or 4 UFO reports from the Puget Sound area and Eastern Washington about strange craft in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one that I personally took.
Mm-hmm.
But it fits into this bigger picture of